Da 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 da.
Hello! Welcome to
Hey,
Coffee with
Cockneys.
ah oh 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 okay. There it is.
Ah,
Ah
yes. Mm.
mm.
Coffee with Cockneys.
I'll put a little Bailey's in mine. No, I'm just hi. Welcome to the first and probably only episode of Coffee with Cockneys. I'm Joshua Lehman,
And Maxwell Porterfield.
not to be confused with Max House Porterfield. Was that what it was before? No, it wasn't.
Uh,
And
I
it
don't
was
actually
something
know what it was.
Porterhouse Steaks or something like that.
Porterhouse something,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we wanted to do a little very post run of My Fair Lady that we did with Pray Through Productions in 2017 and 18 at the Dutch Apple Theater and also at the Broadway Palm Theater in Florida. And yeah, woo woo. And this is our Maxwell, as per CDC guidelines, we're doing a Doolittle reunion.
A family
A
reunion,
Doolittle family
father and
reunion.
daughter.
This is my Thanksgiving in a cup. And yeah,
Because this is all we can afford.
this is what we can afford. This
Is some
is
coffee for Thanksgiving.
with all the money that Higgins gave us afterwards, we can afford a Thunder Big Friend. Yeah, this is my Office fandom coming out.
But we are doing Thanksgiving on Zoom as we
Right.
have been encouraged to do so that we can
Because
stay safe.
if we didn't and we got the plague or whatever other early century diseases that were floating about in London, we would have to quarantine for 14 days. Who knows, maybe even longer. So,
And it means we don't have to wear a mask because we're not in person. So
being safe.
Thanksgiving reunion for us.
That's right. The best My Fair Lady Doolittle Thanksgiving reunion. Because we're being safe about it. So I thought we would ask each other a couple questions about doing My Fair Lady. I had a blast doing that show. It was probably one of my favorite shows I've ever done.
Yeah.
And had a blast working with you, and we got to work with some really, really amazing talents and friends that we got to meet.
Both times. Lots of good people on both
Yeah,
times.
seriously. So I'll ask you a question and then we'll just go back and forth and we'll give our fans and our friends some things to maybe find out that they didn't, know about us or doing the show.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, forgot to say, Eliza, what a surprise when I saw you. We had like 5 bits planned.
Planning.
No, I know you always forget a bit,
It's okay.
and I don't even know if they were Dean Sobin approved bits because, we didn't work those. That's okay. Anyway, what was your favorite thing about playing Eliza? What do you think?
So she goes from unrefined Cockney to a lovely lady who has excellent pronunciation and poise. But my favorite part was playing her unrefined character. Um, I think like our society puts so much pressure on people to be perfect, to look a certain way or to act a certain way. And it was really amazing to play someone who didn't fit into any of that. And I think she was really real and raw and true. And it was just really fun because it was just without all of the societal expectations. And I think there's a lot of joy in being able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not biased at all, but I think you played her wonderfully, and I had, I think we all had a great time working.
Yeah, it was fun to. I mean, thank you. It was fun to do together, and
Well, can I brag on you for a second on that note?
Okay.
Yeah, embarrass you. I remember coming in, and I was definitely prepared for my role, but I remember there was a couple lines I was still like brushing up or something in rehearsals, and you were like, well, I'm completely off book because, you know, in the theater you come off book and prepared and ready to go. And I know that's the expectation, but I remember going, oh man, she's either the most pretentious person I've ever met, or she is just so ready for this. Like, it was very evident that you had worked really hard, not just on your lines, but on the character, and you were like really ready to go. It was almost like an Eliza answer to, you know, us being ourselves. It was really great. And you were just super prepared.
I could add a teeny bit of context, which you sort of said was that from my opera training, you're expected to come off book.
Right.
So I was used to that. But also the way that my brain works, I have to have stuff memorized to really get into the character and to play. Yeah. So, and so even though that means it can move still, it's like, it's necessary for me to do my best, but other people can't memorize it until they know what the scene is going to look like. So
with everybody's process being different, it's not like anybody walked in and had not looked at their lines at all. It's just that it kind of looked different for everybody. But no, you were super prepared, and I definitely mean that in terms of not just the script and the music, but just definitely the character. And we had a really fun time fleshing that out in rehearsals.
Definitely.
Yeah. Did you want to ask me a question?
Yeah, I got one for you.
Cool.
So what was the most challenging aspect of playing Alfred Doolittle?
I say this was sometimes a challenge, but only on days where I think we did 8 or 9 shows. There may have been like a week where we did 10 shows. Maybe there wasn't.
At least 9 sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, was keeping up the energy. I think Doolittle and Norbert Leo Butz played him on Broadway recently, and I think that was great because I got to see a couple of clips, and he did like this POV style with I don't know if you saw it, he had like a camera in his hat or something like that, or
I didn't know. Yeah,
those hats. But I definitely think that any performer that plays him, it's about the energy. In all the other things that you have to think about when you're playing him is I wanted to keep the energy up. So even if I had a day where I was just really tired, I was like, no, once I get out there, it's keeping the energy up because you're in the 2 big production numbers. Plus you have this, you know, it's only 3 scenes, 3 or 4 scenes, 3 scenes, but it's definitely keeping the energy going. And as soon as like you're on in that scene, it sometimes could be a little bit of a challenge, but I think once I was in that space, that headspace, and doing the character, I was like, okay, we're on, and challenge accepted. So
yeah, and I would say too,
I was gonna say keeping the truth going too, like keeping the energy up, but also being truthful in the character.
Yeah, definitely. Because you really have a balancing act in being like so much of the comedy and then balancing the truth in that, I think is
yeah, and I think that is a challenge because you could really go one way or the other and lose sight of how you're supposed to play him. But I was definitely trying to keep the balance going. So
and the energy, you as an observer, you definitely brought it, and I think it was really joyful for me to watch your scenes because I don't know, it's one of those scenes that just brings out a smile to your face, and it did have the energy and the joy, and I feel like you did that really well.
Well, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, had a blast. It was definitely fun. Let me transition to asking you another question. Here's a really good one. What makes My Fair Lady relevant for today, in your opinion?
A little bit kind of what I was talking about before, just how our society is really just trying to tell you who to be. And one of the interesting parts of My Fair Lady is that we celebrate that she becomes this lady. And I mean, it's a huge accomplishment. She does, have new opportunities because of that. And it is a great thing for her to grow and to mature and to have new opportunities. But I still think that she's fitting into what society is telling her she should be
Mm.
in order to thrive. And I think that that's really relevant for today because um, there are so many people who don't have the opportunities they need to thrive in life, or that have different obstacles, and also there's just so much societal pressure. Um, so I think those subjects are still really relevant to today, and also just where she starts out in the show. Um, her main goal is basically to survive, and she has a desire to thrive, but she's really just making sure she can eat for today. And I think being in the middle of a pandemic, more Americans than usual are figuring out what it's like to just survive. And so I don't know, I think it's extremely relevant, and it's a different time, but so relatable.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
Mhm.
I don't know how they would have survived with COVID and Eliza and the Doolittle time. I don't know. I mean, and they had other diseases, so I mean, it's not like London was the cleanest part in certain
Sure,
parts.
sure. But
Yeah.
so what would you say was the funniest moment in either production, the same production? Like, what was the best?
The well, I think the funniest moment and the most fun moment, even though Doolittle gets to do two production numbers, toss, back when my hair was a little bit longer. Oh yeah,
It
this,
did used to have a little more links to it. That's
this is the modern day Doolittle look.
right.
The Dunder Mifflin mug, you know.
Great. Yeah.
I think the most fun was the study scene, just because you get to see the rapport and how someone who's very, very poor and has an outlook on life, and someone who's very wealthy and has his own preconceived notions of what life's supposed to be like interacting. And my we talked briefly about Dean Sobin. I know he might watch this, and he's a brilliant director, but he's really blessed with the bits. And I know that you and I both had some bits that we get to do, but in the study scene, he set up all these little bits, and some of them were with like drinking, and
Mhm.
there was one where I took a sip of was it scotch or brandy or something like that, and then I ran over. Oh no, I was already on the other side of the stage, and I took a drink, and then I ran over, and I did a spit take in James and DJ's face, and especially James like took it like a champ. And I remember every night. This was pre-COVID times, I should
Yeah,
say.
it couldn't happen during
Could not
COVID.
happen
Spitting in people's
now,
face.
not with the current CDC guidelines. But I remember doing this spit take like right in James's face every night in Indy. That just like knowing that I'm like, this is the only context in theater that I could do this. But that was one of the funniest, and the audience, I really milked it, and the audience got a real joy out of that. So that was, I think, one of the funniest moments was the drink. Anything that was a drinking related bit was just really, really funny. And I had a
Yeah.
bit where I picked my nose and rubbed it on his and couch and everything. So yeah, I think that was one of the funnier ones.
I'm also thinking of what it would look like in pandemic performance mode if you were wearing a face shield and doing a spit take.
Because that's funny, because then it would go all over my face. There would be a splashback. So I think
Oh,
maybe
yeah, awesome.
if any theater producers are out there watching this and they want to do like a COVID related My Fair Lady, there could probably be some opportunities for some really funny bits, and it'd be funny to watch. We didn't do the ball scene, but anything where you see everybody like gallantly made up with all of these costumes, and then they all like take a face shield and go zzz, or they put on these, like the curtain comes up and everybody's in there at the what was the horse race.
Yes. Oh. They could have masks as their main prop instead of umbrellas and canes, and it could
And
be maskography.
they take the mask down to look through the little eyeglass, the
Mm.
little binoculars. Doot, 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 doot. I don't know.
I think it could be great. We,
Yeah, I'm riffing. Yeah,
I'm down actually.
yeah. So I think it's my question.
Yeah, I think
This
so.
one involves you and I. What was your favorite? I know we had a couple scenes where it was you and I together. What was your favorite Alfie and Eliza moment in our show?
Um,
Funny or not
so
funny, doesn't matter.
yeah. I really, the one that stands out is when I'm finally getting my lessons and I have nice clothes on, I'm working hard, and you come in and I'm like, oh no, like
Yeah,
he's about to ruin my chances. This is the
yeah,
most embarrassing parent thing that could ever happen. And
yeah.
I mean, it's all very funny. That's actually one of the hard things was all the funny moments as an audience member. I can't react to because Eliza doesn't think it's funny,
Right,
but
right, right.
it was great. So it was just like this is the one chance that I have to make my life better. And I'm finally here doing it and have some progress. And I want to not be associated with the things of the past. And you're like coming in and blundering and being embarrassed. And it's great. And I think the heightened like feelings in that moment and how like frustrated I am with you is great. And then as a like in the back of my mind
Mhm.
internally I'm laughing at all the funny things that you're doing, so
And it's kind of like one of those interesting moments I was thinking while you were talking, where for the audience and for everyone else in the scene, it's kind of funny, but for Eliza, this is like a really serious moment, and you kind of have that juxtaposition of two different things playing out, where like he's selling his daughter off and being like, you have any trouble with her, governor? It's a few licks to the strap, kind of thing.
yeah,
And yeah, no, you're right. She's mortified to see him, but he's kind of like, whatever, I got money, you know.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm going and whatever. That kind of speaks to Alfie's character. If you, and the thing is, I remember Dean getting into some really heavy things, like um, obviously there's not always an opportunity to play it, but like kind of like Alfie may love his daughter, even though there's like he like deep down, it's all he's ever known is this is how you relate to your daughter and stuff like that. So, but they definitely in the script take a like some cheap shots at some very serious subjects and stuff like that. So anyway, that's a whole different long conversation. But uh, yeah,
Well, so what would you say were some or what is a life lesson that Alfie portrays in his character or in the scenes?
um, taking advantage of the system. Um, and I think in the end, because I think Doolittle is kind of like used as like a vehicle to tell a lot of everybody else's story. But in the end, even like in his name, like Doolittle, like he does not much at all. He's like a dustman and like a earlier century, trash collector, or like would do whatever he can to get some money. And I think it's ironic because in the end, a transformation not just happens to Eliza, but it happens to him too. And like for her, she's carrying her new transformation, and for him, he's just like, this stinks. This stinks because I have to do all this stuff, and there's all these things that come with being an aristocratic person, and he didn't ask for this, and it's not on him. And I think one of those lines that when you confronted Doolittle, and he's just like, now that I'm rich, I have, and this is me giving the modern translation. Now that I'm rich, I'm having all these people hitting me up for money and things like that. Whereas when I was poor, I didn't have to worry about that. So I think life lesson wise, it's just like be careful what you wish for, because I think he kind of wanted like was interested in that life, but not too interested. And all of a sudden, like it gets thrust upon him by Higgins just because he came in to ask for a little bit of money for his daughter, and all of a sudden now he's kind of cursed. So just yeah. it's kind of hard to tie like a specific life lessons to him, but I just think that he's kind of used as a vehicle in terms of like the plot and everything.
Yeah, well, and I think like you were saying, abusing the system or something like that, or
Yeah, he's kind of an
yeah,
example of what not to do.
yeah,
And I've in some of the characters I've played in musical theater, I feel like there's characters where it's kind of like this character might not be a shining example, but definitely a shining example of what you might not want to do
mhm.
if you don't want to have repercussions, extended to that. Um, so what was the most challenging thing about playing Eliza Doolittle for you?
Um, so one of the things in preparing was, you know, working on the Cockney accent and then
Mhm.
doing proper British. But I think the tough part was getting in the mode for both and then everything in between. Because like when it comes to accents, I kind of have to get in a zone for them and kind of reorient the way my brain thinks. And so it's two different accents, but then also because she doesn't automatically do the other one perfectly, there's a progression. And I think doing all the in between bits, both with her pronunciation and with her physical mannerisms and um, how she reacts to things, and that transition was a fun challenge to do, but definitely took a lot of intention and like kind of crafting what things would be in the new vein and what things would still be in the old vein in every moment. And I love that. I love what every role's challenge is, and I think that one's one that was unique to this because even though, you know, a character might have more of an arc in what they've learned or how they've grown, hers is a much more her growth is in many more aspects than a given character in other shows. But it was fun to meet the challenge and to be able to do it every day.
Do you think that's this is kind of a small follow-up question on that? Do you think that's something that you realized and were able to get into your manner and your mannerisms in your body when we did it in rehearsal, or do you feel like you kind of like were out to go, like ready to show that transition, like you were saying, the challenge of that transition in?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it was constantly building. So I probably came with some, idea and vision for that, but I think during the rehearsal process, it definitely developed a lot. And Dean was really helpful with like pointing out things that I wasn't thinking about, or like really adding vision to the character. And and I would also say that I wish I was always doing um, like the fullness of my character right off of the bat. But um, there's always growth um, within the run of the show. So not that things
Yeah.
were changing, but that maybe became more specific or more fine tuned. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, that
Um,
was me.
um, So, what was you did a lot of bits. What was the process of putting together your comedic bits with Higgins?
The process of putting
Like in rehearsal, would how did you guys come up with them? Would you just kind of riff and then keep the stuff
well,
that was good, or
yeah, that's a good question. Dean would come up to me during rehearsals, like the first time we mounted the show, and was like, "Can you burp on command? And can you do all these different things?" And I said, first of all, I was like, "No, I can't." But I think that I learned in this one spot of the show where it wasn't always certain, but most of the time I could kind of belch after drinking the was iced tea, but it was supposed to be like brandy or scotch or something like really really fast.
Mhm.
Um, I we did riff, and I remember we kind of had to get pulled back by the artistic team because there was in Pennsylvania in Lancaster when James and I did it. James, for those of you watching, and I hope James gets to watch this, he played the Dice With family in the national tour of Gentleman's Guide. So he's a great friend to both of us, but also just extremely talented in thinking on his feet. So, rightfully so from playing the Dice With family. But I got a taste of that while we were doing the bits and the energy and working in the study scene, because I would not to throw him off, I would do like a little thing, like one day after crawling around the couch, I kind of like pointed off stage
And he went with it.
Followed suit. He went with it, and he turned. And then, like while he was turning, I tried to reach for the brandy, which was not planned out at all. We were riffing and stuff, and then like we kind of got pulled back by the artistic team, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But I would I had a fun time with that, and I think we kind of fleshed out. And it's definitely kind of like a game of catch or ball when you're with a scene partner and you're trying to make sure you stay within the confines of what you're doing with the show. But I definitely did a lot of my research on the show and the time, wanting to keep that truthful aspect we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I would make sure I stretched and vocalized every day to be ready for whatever happened, because there's a lot of energy, like we said, you bring to the role. So yeah. So should we talk about what we're both up to now that is you want to go first?
What has been going on in your world?
So I am currently in the cast of Queen Esther at Sight and Sound Theaters in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I'm having a blast with that. I'm playing Elder Levi. That is a really fun show. And that actually, here's a little thing that ties us together. Let's do a little trivia. You actually done a version of Esther as well, right? In a show. Didn't you tell me you did a show?
I have, yeah. I did. It was a musical version by a composer that has worked with the producer for this one, I think multiple times, and we did a Queen Esther show, and I met a lot of great people in the process of that. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're able to work during the pandemic.
It's thank you. Yeah, it's a blessing, but also at the same time, I'm kind of like watching a lot of my colleagues not able to do theater, and like being an artist, we're naturally empathetic, or at least I'm very empathetic and aesthetics to that. So seeing a lot of others that aren't working, but I see online a lot of people in our craft doing like Zoom shows now, or Zoom. I mean, we're doing not a Zoom show, but something via Zoom, and artistic endeavors via Zoom, taking classes, honing their craft. I saw something the other day, like a meme that said that Shakespeare, during the great pandemic of his time, actually is when he wrote at least 3 or 4 of his greatest plays. So I think it's a time in our industry where those who aren't working are definitely working on their craft. But I'm doing that during the furlough. I did a Zoom show. I did a murder mystery via Zoom, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I did like an ab challenge that my brother-in-law gave and lost like 30 pounds. Gained it all back unintentionally because you eat a lot during the furlough too, and then you drink a lot of coffee. So those have been my and then I did a film. I did a short film that they just wrapped on. It's in post-production now, called An Invasion at Dinner, set during the 1930s. So what's going on with you? What's new in your world?
Yeah, well, it's given me some extra time. The pandemic has given me some extra time to be putting some videos together that I have been wanting to do. So the My Fair Lady specific one is I've done Eliza's song Loverly as if she were in the pandemic. And so we'll post a link to that. But basically, yeah, what Eliza would be, what her words would be if she was here and now, and instead of in the context of the
That's
show.
great.
Um, and uh, and also one that I did kind of right before that is I'm a Settlers of Catan fan, and
Yes.
I made a I made a music video about Settlers of Catan. It's like a Settlers of Catan unofficial music video, and it's live action with other people who I've played with and who love it as well. And there are like all of the resources in the game are physically in the video like shoot. Like we had them including a live sheep. So
Nice.
that's what I've been
Union sheep, right? The sheep
saying.
was a sheep a union actor?
Yes, paid very highly in feed.
Ah,
So yeah,
he wasn't that bad of an actor.
it was perfect. It could have been really bad, but it was fun. There were the kids that were there and helping out, and in the video, they were. It was cool how they facilitated it because obviously the sheep are not actors, they're not trained or anything. So it could have been a total like kerfuffle, but it worked out just perfect. Like one of the kids was like leading the other sheep away, and so that I could give food to the one that we were gonna have on camera, and then it just all worked together so that the sheep was eating and staying in the right place while I could pet it
That's
for the
great.
camera shoot.
Did
And
you
so,
direct this too?
yeah. Kind of had the vision, got people together, talked through what it would look like, and it was really fun. So
That's
if you
awesome.
like Settlers of Catan,
Yeah, and we should mention that we played a lot with both casts.
yeah.
But yeah, and we had fun. It would be kind of a late night thing after a lot of shows. I remember playing almost every night some weeks.
Yeah, I thought it was a really cool way to spend time together because whenever we're doing shows, like your cast is kind of your friend group that you spend a lot of your time with, and not everybody loves Settlers of Catan, but for those who do, it's like, yeah, let's play every day, and it was a good way to spend quality time together.
Yeah, I agree. I had a really good time because I remember when I played, I would be on a team and it would be just me and one other person because I'd be eating a lot of the after buffet stuff after shows. But I remember
Yeah.
I would make a.
Don't say that on camera.
Oh, sorry. I meant I would make a plate earlier and save it. Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't say this.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Okay.
People do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll never be hired again.
Yeah, we'll never. Yeah. We're just gonna settle for doing My Fair Lady via Zoom. But no, it's thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule with all the videos and everything else you're doing. I think this was really fun.
Yeah.
Have the
Good to catch up with you and
Doolittle reunion.
Is to you.
It's for you. This is the new mug dance. It's dun dun dun. dun.
Oh yes, there was a mug mug dance in the show. Okay.
Which you didn't get to be a part of. I wish.
I didn't learn it. I wasn't in it, but you guys did a great job, and that was a lot of work putting together. I remember.
It was because I can be sometimes choreographically challenged. So I remember Ford going.
Can you say what the mug dance was? So in the yeah.
What was it? I think it was left, right. Well, it was all in a like a what do you call it? A round.
It was the Cockney chorus number. Right?
Oh, you mean like what it was from? It was from
what it was from, and so
a little bit of luck.
Yeah, and these were the props that were like part of the choreography.
Yeah, and we had to go like up, down, like down, drink, and then at the end,
it was fast and it was difficult.
It was fast, and at the very end, you can't be a theater and not produce at least one show with mugs, I guess, because I've seen it in Les Mis and I've seen it in Beauty and the Beast. So I feel like this, it's a rite of passage for a theater. You got to always have mugs in your props because you got to do at least one of these 2 or 3 or 4 shows that have a mug scene. So you could always put a mug dance in.
Good go-to, I guess.
It was great. And Ford did an amazing,
Hauser.
Hauser was our choreographer, did an amazing job. I want to make sure we name dropped a couple people here that they get their due credit. And the production team, Lauren Sobin was our artistic director and producer, and the Prathers did a great job of producing.
That Chapel, Broadway Palm.
Palm, yeah. Well, I think this has been a really great catch-up. I'm glad we got to ask each other these questions and have a little bit of coffee with Cockneys. Where are they now? Family reunion between the Doolittles.
COVID safe.
COVID safe with the masks. There it is. So do you want to sign us off here with any little like My Fair Lady things, or do you want to sing them? You want to?
I want to say stay safe and wear your mask.
Thank you, Eliza. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We love you guys. Have a great holiday season this year.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye.